Hey there, Wargamers! Welcome to the After Action Report for Hydra versus Sentinels, and oh my goodness, there are words for this game. Many, 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 many words. Troop, I will give you the first word.
Sentinels are control pieces. Now, I know that's not surprising, but as it turns out, when I walked around with a Mark IV and got to punch people and then received the entirety of an entire force's attention, I didn't feel like he was beefy enough, but I felt like he always had control, and I felt like he always had lots of damage to deal. His baby Sentinels, though, are more control and less damage. They want to use their power to gain power, and then restrain cables as needed, and I added a little bit more control to this list, and it was unnecessary.
Yeah, I do think you went a little heavy on the control. I liked where you were going initially, but seeing it in action is like, oh, wait a minute. Now, I mean, let's not ignore the elephant in the room in this one. I had a lot of little attacks that did strangely large amounts of damage.
I'm also going to say that I have a lot of pushes in my list, and Red Skull, between Red Skull's ability with his armor,
His Leviathan armor, yeah, because the dispersion field.
The Hydra goons always in the way.
I backstopped quite a bit, and
yeah.
a lot of the time that was kind of unintentional.
Yeah, well, and it didn't need to be. I can imagine a bunch of lists where me being able to push and pull wherever I wanted was going to be great. This Hydra, Red Skull, Master of Hydra is definitely the kind of model that says, nah, I don't want that to be my problem. So,
and yeah, like it ended up like restraint cables just did not show up for you this game.
Well, and in games where like I pulled the Hydra goons not because I needed to pull the Hydra goons out, but because I had an excess amount of power and never really had a thing to use with it. So I'm like, get him out of the way so I can actually fight your guys. So
yeah, it's really kind of interesting how this list went down. One thing I will say, I think you might have seen a little bit more success if you paired all three Sentinels together and then put Shuri and Rocket over here.
So interestingly, I think you're absolutely right, except it's not Shuri and Rocket. Those two shouldn't have been anything in this list. I feel like maybe something like Juggernaut or something on the other side holding a flank would have been a better choice.
A 5 threat would have been an interesting addition here.
Yeah.
Because a 5, yeah, you know what? Something like Juggernaut, oh my goodness. I don't know. Juggernaut would have been nice. Ultron could have been an interesting choice.
Ultron's actually sitting in my list. So is Juggernaut. And there's part of me that is kind of like, well, what if I took a 4 threat instead of one of the Sentinels and had Juggernaut, and then been able to say, hey, how about Under the Skin, and make them part of the Sentinels thing. So
you know what, I don't think I agree with ditching the other Sentinel. I think 3 Sentinels is kind of a really good way to go. I really like it. I think, now when we break it down, I think Mutant Madman is not the greatest scenario for Sentinels. Not that it was a bad one, but I kind of bogged you down over here.
Yes.
I think giving Rocket the hammer might have been the wrong call.
Interestingly, I agree, but it does look good on paper. I have a 6 dice range 5 attack. Normally I would be able to double tap. Yeah, it feels like it should be a good shot, but every time I fired, it was underwhelming.
Yeah, your dice did not show up to play today. That's something we cannot ignore in this game, right?
Sure.
We've done a lot of these games. And every so often we get one of those games where the dice don't come out. And I mean, let's just be honest here. My dice were popping off. Your dice really weren't.
Hey, okay. So traditionally, though, your shield ninjas do a pile of damage, and Hydra ninjas apparently do the same thing for you.
Yeah, because what was there? There was one attack I rolled 5 dice and got, or 4 dice and got 5 damage or something like that, or 5 dice.
I think it was 3 dice and got 4 damage. Zola got the other side where,
Zola put on a lot of work as well. Even just throwing that shock out, like 1 less die. I like Zola and the Hydra troopers nickel and dimed you. And then friggin' Red Skull and Black Swan just kind of came in and finished everything off, right?
So what did you think? You're used to using shield ninjas that go pick up things and transfer them off to other people. These guys go and get to freely secure things. What do you think?
Interestingly enough, I feel like it's kind of an interesting defensive option. It was very different. I'm used to playing a much more aggressive list. I played a lot more defensively this game. I didn't really, like, Zima was just playing a game of cat and mouse over here.
Yeah, 100%.
And then over here, I was basically like pop out, shoot, roll back type thing. Like, I was just playing a game where it's like, I just don't want you to be able to double tap me. and I was able to play a very defensive game.
Well, and you also got to, like, let's not understate it. You say that almost the entire game, Red Skull, Master of Hydra, generated you piles and piles of power this entire game.
Oh yeah, because of his leadership.
Yeah.
I was never starved for power at any point. In fact, I'm ending the game and Zola is fully powered up. Zemo has a whole bunch of power. Red Skull himself is sitting on 4 power. I never had to use Red Skull's ability to gain himself extra power because I never needed it.
Yeah.
Just sitting, like, contesting and securing objectives just gave me all the power I needed this game, and that was... I think it's, until you actually get that extra power, you don't really think about it, but that is crazy efficient. It did mean that I spent a lot of time babysitting an objective, but starting the game with 2 points and 2 hammers, I mean, it just... Well, actually, no, did I have 2 hammers or 3?
You had 3 hammers.
No, I had 2 hammers to start.
Oh, 2 hammers, yeah.
I had 2 hammers to start. And just, that was kind of crazy. Because I was able to get up early on because you failed to take an objective early on.
Yes.
And then at that point, I just decided, well, I'm just going to play a defensive game.
Well, and I think that's something that Hydra can do. I think Hydra has, especially Master of Hydra, he has a certain amount of incentive to gather up on points and do a little bit of work that way, right? So...
Yeah, can definitely do that, and I clustered up, right?
Yes.
Like I had 3 pieces kicking around with a 4th support kicking around, and I never really needed to do much. You killing the goons over here actually was a big help for me.
Yeah.
Because you killed them and like, all right, well, I'm just going to bring them over here and help out. And
I did miss on his card that he spawns them every turn, and I was like, oh, uh-oh.
Whoops. Like, I get what you were planning for over here, right? Like, I totally understand that. And honestly, like, I think this Sentinel should have had a much better time running the board against Zemo.
Yeah, and if... so, going to my Smash play, we talked about it in the game a little bit, but in the strategic form to remove something that was going to be a big center of the battle, the garbage truck definitely needed to go down.
The garbage truck was a huge deterrent to you.
Yeah,
it kept me safe for so much of the game.
It definitely changed the nature of this side of the battlefield, which was probably the more important side. But my play over here was definitely, I thought, very reasonable. I was throwing...
you threw 8?
I thought I was throwing 8 dice. It was actually 7 dice because their base attack is only 4 strength.
You threw 8 dice because this.
It
was a size 4 truck. Yep.
I was thinking it would be 9. That was it. And I'm like, okay, well, good chance I'll get Zemo on this side.
Yes.
If I pin him down there and I am able to attack you again next turn, it'll be great. I feel like we had enough things going on that Zemo getting out of the way would have cost you something over there.
And what was it? You rolled like 3 successes or something like that?
Yeah.
And then I happened to roll 2 successes and only took 1 point of damage.
It was kind of an embarrassing smash turn. And you're not wrong that I probably should have saved it for second turn because I definitely could have done the same kind of thing. If you thought Zemo was safe, then you would have done the other side here and tried to put some pressure on this side.
Yeah. I think double tapping smash is definitely something you want to do. I also think that smashing over here would have had a much greater impact because I had a lot more pieces over here that you wanted to take out, right?
And in my hope, it would be the smash turn, I take out Zemo, and then I can follow up, kill Zemo, and then I've got hammer and the 2 points over here, plus my 2 hammers and a thing over there. No. So I was like, this would give me a lot of momentum, definitely worth a risk. Thought I would have got more even on the low side of things.
Now, interestingly enough, I think you would have really benefited from Follow Me in this game.
I think you're right.
There was a bunch of turns where you had a bunch of power.
Yeah.
And getting that second activation to maybe take out 1 or 2 of my guys instead of giving me that chance to sort of swing momentum back.
100%.
Would have been really good. I mean, my tactics cards, I used Scientific Method, and the other 4 they never came up. They didn't need to in this game. I also think Patch Up.
Yeah, Patch Up was in the roster. I was definitely looking for a cheeky sacrifice, and that's what ended up taking the spot. And it turns out that was a very bad sacrifice, and definitely should have been Patch Up.
And what was your other cards?
I had Online and Operational,
and then you had the
Scrap Metal, where explode a Sentinel or heal a Sentinel back to healthy. So we were talking about this a little bit. Is it a trap? I think Scrap Metal is not a trap. You're just spending 2 power to play this card, and when a Sentinel dies, you hit everyone around, enemy characters around you, and then push them away.
So I'm going to disagree with you on both points. I think they're both traps, to be honest. I think if your Sentinel is blowing up, doing an extra, what is it, 2 damage? 1 damage?
You roll 5 dice, and for each hit, crit, and wild...
Maybe. And who has to pay for it?
When an allied character with the Sentinel program... It has to be the Sentinel that's blowing up.
I feel like it relies very heavily on being within that range, too. And I think oftentimes you have control over a lot of that. And if your opponent is constantly trying to stay at a range 2 of your Sentinels... That's a pretty big play. Now, I stayed on a range 2 of your Sentinels pretty much all game.
But I also didn't push them in there because, unfortunately, I didn't have any follow-up because Rocket and Shuri were not aggressive enough pieces.
I don't know. I don't think it's a bad card. I don't think it's a great card either. I could see a lot more play on it on, say, like a Gamma or a Demons Downtown or something like that.
I agree. And I actually thought that because of the nature of this battle, I thought we would be a lot more squished here. And you getting ahead on points and that truck being where it was, as you said, it definitely dominated the game. And my restraint cables being where they were.
I mitigated your restraint cables a huge amount. Now, on the other hand, online and operational. I absolutely think that card is a trap. It is too expensive for what it does. It means you always have to be babysitting a Mark IV with Prime within range 3. And you need 8 power for it, so it means if you're saving up 8 power, you're not doing rerolls with the Prime. You're not adding dice to your attacks. You're not doing other things that you need to do. And
so, interestingly, you had in your roster before we started playing, you had the Hydra High Council.
High Council, yeah.
And
then I remembered you were playing Sentinels. I'm like, that's a dumb idea.
But the same idea, instead of spending extra power, you have to jump through a bunch of hoops to try to get that to go off.
But the thing is, my hoops for High Council are things that I'm trying to do anyway, right?
Sure.
Like, I want Zola to sit on an objective. I want Red Skull to have a whole bunch of power. I want Zemo to punch somebody into oblivion, and I want Strucker to give poison. Those are things that I'm doing anyway. Do you really want to be sitting on 8 power?
Well, and that's the thing. When I think about do I want to be sitting on 8 power, it's actually do I want to be sitting on 6 power, because at the end of each turn, Sentinel gains 2 power. Or the Sentinel Prime gains 2 power, right?
Okay, fair enough. But do you really want to be saving up all that power? I don't know. I've run Prime a lot.
Yeah.
And I find it very, very rarely was I sitting on more than 5 power in a lot of times, and every single time I loved using that power for rerolls. And you use that power for rerolls a lot here. They just didn't follow through for you in this particular game.
I finished the game with Sentinel Prime having 9 power on it before he was getting dazed. I definitely had lots of periods where having 8 power was within my grasp, and most of the time I kind of piddled off my power in weird defensive things that I think I should primarily use that ability for offense rather than defense.
I don't disagree with you there. I think you have a big enough health pool that using it on the offense is a little bit nicer. Because you could have been using that for the Mark IV Plasma Blasts to help power them up a little bit more. And again, though, that kind of goes back to the elephant in the room in this game, and that was the dice rolls.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Your dice rolls, again, were doing you no favors this game.
It's a dice game. I will say, though, that my game plan did have some flaws in it. And I think that list building was a little bit... You were talking there about deployment, and you're right. Especially if I take those 2 cards, I think I have a Sentinel clump over here, and I have something else over here. And if I have a Sentinel clump over here, there is no garbage truck over here.
Yeah. Something else that I think you should have done early game, and I actually even mentioned this, there was a hammer right there. I think you should have just had a Sentinel pick it up before anything happens.
That's fair.
Because it's like, I get what you were playing with Rocket. He's a range 5, give him a 6 dice plasma.
Well, and rifle. I wanted to diversify my threats. I wanted you to want to throw some dice at Rocket to punk him to get your hammer off of him. I wanted you to go after Sentinel Prime so that he couldn't give out his rerolls. I wanted you to go after my Sentinels because they were going to constantly be causing you problems with their restraint cables, which they weren't.
And I did all those things, but not because of the problems. It's just because Hydra woke up, ate their Wheaties, and chose violence.
Exactly.
So there was definitely some things going on here. I think the Hydra list was surprisingly violent.
Yes.
I actually really dug Black Swan in this list.
I liked her too. I think she loved the extra power, and we were talking beforehand if you had a stone or not, and I don't think she would have even needed a stone in this game.
I think having a stone gets her online a lot faster. I think I was originally building with High Council in mind until I realized Sentinels. I think in this particular game, I probably could have ditched Zola or Strucker.
Yep.
Although, I liked the reroll from Strucker.
I actually really liked Strucker in this game. I think that Zola could have been almost any model, but
Zola didn't do a whole lot. Yeah, he didn't do a whole lot. Ditch Zola for a 2-threat like a Bullseye or something like that. Give the Power Stone to Black Swan. Sure. And she would have been online and operational a lot faster, and she has an unrestricted size throw, which Sentinels do not like.
No, not at all.
And when I finally got that opportunity, it's like, well, I can throw it at Rocket, but Rocket doesn't care. He doesn't take collision damage.
No.
So nobody cares there. But yeah, it's interesting. It's hard to say whether or not this squad was a good squad because of the way the dice operated.
Sure.
I think there was some merit to what you were doing with your particular squad.
I do think that I went too heavy on the control and too heavy on the, I'm going to call it meekness. I was trying to avoid fights that I didn't need to be avoided.
You needed a dedicated punching piece.
I think
is what it was.
Yeah.
And there's definitely options out there. Corvus would have been interesting.
Yes.
Corvus with reality?
Yeah. Oh, that's another good 5. Yeah. I was more thinking about I could have Cassandra as my 5 and then replace one of the Sentinels with...
No. You don't bring Cassandra.
I don't think she's bad, but I think that she's not bad for a different reason than the other side.
I think 3 Sentinels with Corvus with the Reality Stone. Your Sentinels basically say, okay, we're going to make sure that these objectives are ours, and then you have one Sentinel that babysits Corvus and basically goes, restraint cables, come on in. Corvus then goes stab, and then next round, rinse, repeat, right?
Yeah, but I definitely think that Juggernaut would have been another good model here. I think that...
I think if you had somebody with a throw.
Yes.
I think you would have benefited from a throw very much this game.
100%.
Because there was a lot of size 2 terrain, because obviously we're playing with this wonderful table war mat.
Yep.
And there's a lot of terrain to kind of throw around, and neither of us really had terrain throws.
No, I smashed that truck and then I was done.
Yep. I mean, there were some character throws here. I had 2 character throws, but one of which was never looking at the Sentinels at all. But yeah. So anyway, I think we've said what we need to say about this game. All in all, it ended up being a bit of a dice game in the end there. 19-11 for Hydra. So anyway, folks, hopefully you guys enjoyed the game. Hopefully we have entertained you this weekend. We will see you next time. Leave your comments below, and happy wargaming.